And we are live on Sirius XM channel 84. We are brought to you by Bet Rivers. My name is Greg Waddell. I got a couple Gators with me tonight. We got Patric Young. We got Matt McCall himself. And this is going to be a fun one, ladies and gentlemen. We are getting into the swing of things in the college basketball season, and there's no place that we would rather be than right here on the Field of 68 After Dark to break it all down for you. As always, you can also watch this on our YouTube channel, Field of 68. Go ahead and jump in the comments if you're over there. We will be doing the afters for the first time this season. We'll stick around about 15 minutes after the show, just live on the YouTube channel. We'll answer your questions, and we'll have a little fun. We'll do our cheers of the night to end the show as well. But since this is such a special night, guys, Matt, I got to throw it your way first. I mean, you tweeted out this afternoon how important, how special this moment is for you and PY to be reunited on the show.
Oh, man, we had such a good time. There's so many memories. What Patrick did at the University of Florida, we talked about it earlier too. Maybe the greatest play in Thompson-Boling Arena. I know a lot of Tennessee fans are not happy about that, but the hustle play when Pat dove down on the ball to save the ball, 21-0 in the SEC in 2014.
First do it.
21-0, and a lot to do with the big fella Patric Young. And it's great to see you, Pat. It's great to be with you tonight, man.
It's great to see you as well. I just remember you and I, we had a scripture that you would remind me of at times, because I needed to hear it, that God did not give us a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. And grateful for you to keep that verse when I needed it at times, because, you know, young kids just trying to go out there and perform with the weight of the world on the shoulders, wanting to win, and finally figure things out that senior year. And the rest is history, man. I still get a little salty over Kentucky making it to the championship game that year. After we beat Kentucky three times. Kicked their butts, beat them three times that year, and then make it to the championship game against UConn. So I don't hate UConn, even though they knocked us out. They got it done. They got the job done. I would have caught a case if Kentucky won it all. I would have for sure.
Greg, I got to tell this story. I was an assistant coach at FAU. It was my first year being an assistant coach, and I was on the road recruiting. And Coach Donovan hired me back 3 years after that. But I'll never forget, I was in a tournament down in Miami, sitting next to Coach Donovan, watching Patric Young play for the Lee Bulls in a back gym down in Miami at Team Breakdown's event. And
you were there for that.
I was there for that. And I'm like, man, maybe we should recruit this guy at FAU. And Coach Donovan kind of looks at me sideways, and Patrick was their number one recruit. That's how young of an assistant coach I was. I thought I could actually recruit Patric Young to come to Florida Atlantic University. But
oh
man, we had some great times. Great times.
Hey, and that breakdown squad had Kenny Boynton, Brandon Knight,
Keith Clant, Raymond Taylor, maybe the greatest
Eloy Vargas.
Point guard I've ever coached.
He's a champion on that Kentucky team from 2012.
There you go.
Crazy.
Matt, all I'm hearing is that your eye for talent was just great at a young age.
It was phenomenal.
That's all I'm hearing.
Phenomenal at 24 years old. My eye for talent was phenomenal.
Impressive stuff. Well, I can promise our listeners this: the team chemistry tonight from the panel is going to be off the charts. So stick around with us. We're going to hit a lot of stuff tonight. We're going to start in the Big Ten tonight, where there were some important games. Purdue steals a huge road win against Michigan State. There were other results around the country, particularly in the ACC and the Big East, that we will jump to as well in the second block. Then we're going to go big picture. We're going to talk if we're buying or selling certain teams that had some surprise results over the weekend. There were certainly many of them. And then to end the show, we will preview all of the action in the Big 12 that will take place tomorrow. But like I mentioned, let's start in East Lansing. I'm wearing the Spartan Dog shirt. I am a Michigan State graduate, so this is already a home game for me. One thing I'm not familiar with in Michigan State and East Lansing, though, losing home games. That doesn't happen too much, especially a guy scoring 32 points in a road win at the Breslin Center. That has never happened until today, when Zach Edey did just that. 32 points, 17 rebounds. Fletcher Loyer, Foster Loyer, former Spartans brother, was phenomenal tonight. And Tyson Walker, in his own right, 30 points from him, a ton of them in the second half. This was not your typical Big Ten grind of a game in the final 4 minutes of this. This was haymaker after haymaker. Ultimately, Purdue gets the win, and now they get some separation at the top of that conference. So, Pat, let's go to you first. I mean, does this result shock you? It shouldn't, I don't think, because I think Purdue feels like the best team in the conference, right?
Well, the first thing I have to say to address the last 49 seconds of the game took forever. Goodness gracious. Can we figure out a way to speed things up? Like I was about to fall asleep on the couch and I'm like, I gotta stay locked in to see what happens here. But throughout this season so far, some marquee bigs that have had some great games against Michigan State, a team that is very, very tough. But if you're a big guy, I'd be chomping at the bit because Oscar Tshiebwe, 22-18, Drew Timme, 22-13, Dane Danger. What best name in college basketball right now, by the way. Mm-hmm. He went for 20-7. And it was clear that Zach Edey was going to have a phenomenal game, and he really should have had 30 points in the first half. There is no answer for someone that massive of his size. I'm not surprised at all, man. The Big Ten, this is my first time really getting a chance to study this league. There's so much parity in this league. Oh my goodness. It's so confusing to me. I thought that Michigan State played a fantastic game after going 0 for from the 3-point line against Illinois. Good to see that they could knock some 3-pointers down. You have to be able to shoot 3 ball, at least knock 5 down if you want to win to stay competitive. But overall, man, Fletcher Lawyer, phenomenal. He does not look like a freshman. He does not one bit. And for them to come away with a grit win like this is the quad 1 victory for them to continue to fight for their case to be a number 1 seed going into the tournament.
I can tell you there's a lot of Big Ten fans out there that are just terrified of the prospects of a Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer backcourt for the next 4 years. Not to say that they're necessarily both going to be there all 4 years, but I think there's a distinct possibility they could, and they are so good already. Matt, I want to ask you this because I've watched every Michigan State game this year, and the way they've defended post threats in this conference has differed game to game. I mean, you have to go up against the best. You got to go up against Trace Jackson Davis, Hunter Dickinson. Now you see Zach Edey. But as PY mentioned, like it's not necessarily just the national superstars that have had success on this front court that consists of Mady Sissoko, Jackson Kohler, and Carson Cooper. Those guys are just undersized, not guys that have ever really played big minute roles until this season, which Sissoko has blossomed into. But man, a lot of teams are having their way with them. Against Michigan a couple weeks ago, they doubled Hunter Dickinson in a variety of ways, really threw him off his game, were able to stay to close out on shooters and make other guys beat you. Their shooters miss shots. I expected to see that today against a Purdue team that's ranked in the 250s nationally from 3-point percentage shooting. That's not what we saw in the first half. They dared Zach Edey to beat them. And it ultimately did keep them in the game, but it felt like Edey left a lot of points out there. What did you make of that strategy to not double Edey early?
Well, think about, too, the last possession of the game, right? They run a dribble handoff action in Purdue. The previous possession, Tyson Walker, and this is a lesson for all point guards out there, right? Tyson Walker drives in the lane, and a lot of young point guards, a lot of point guards in college basketball would have forced something up at the basket. He drives in the lane and he keeps his dribble alive and he dribbles out. Instead of taking a bad shot, he gets himself a good shot. Then the very next possession, Purdue runs a dribble handoff. Trey Holman switches onto the ball handler and he doesn't affect the pass. He's kind of like his hands are down and the ball goes into the post. And I thought what Edey did, because you think in that situation with the game that he has up to that point, here comes the double. It's coming. They're not going to let him just. But Edey caught it, and his move was so quick.
Yeah,
there was no time to double. He caught it and he went. And I thought that was such an impressive play by Edey. I mean, 32-17. What a game! But that last possession, they knew where they wanted to go to. They run just a simple dribble handoff. They're setting a pin down on the opposite side of the floor to have some movement, but it was a very simple play. But Edey's move was so quick, there was no way anybody could double him, and just a fantastic way to end that game.
Yeah, he's clearly the National Player of the Year frontrunner for a reason right now. You saw that tonight, all the production and the big shot when it mattered most. The one other thing we should just mention, then we're going to move to a different game. No Malik Hall for Michigan State today. There were questions about his availability. He's in a walking boot right now. The rumors are that this could be a long-term injury. He has not necessarily been ruled out specifically for the end of the season yet. There is no verbal on what the injury is. But did not see him today after injuring that in the Illinois game just a couple short days ago. Let's move to Illinois next, who is now on a 4-game winning streak. They went on the road tonight to the Barn, 18-point victory over Minnesota. And I don't want to go explicitly 1-for-1 with this, but Tom Izzo did in the post-game press conference a couple days ago. Sky Clark left this team, and this team is 4-0 since Sky Clark left this team. Is it that simple, Matt?
I mean, sometimes in terms of your culture, you got to fight for your culture. You've got to, every single day, what are you doing to fight for your culture? And if something or someone is removed from your team in order to make your team better and elevate your culture, that's what happens. And I'm not trying to take a knock on Sky Clark. I'm not doing that. But since he's left, things have been elevated. And that just goes to show you that, you've got to fight for that each and every day. I mean, Minnesota going 3 for 13 from 3 didn't help. You look at their 4 straight wins: Wisconsin, at Nebraska, Michigan State at home, at Minnesota. I think Terrence Shannon has been absolutely terrific. And they've been through that adversity, right? I mean, they had a huge win, in what was it, November versus Texas, and they were kind of feeling themselves. And then it was, that's when they kind of took that dip right after that game and, made some changes, and it's helped their team. And fighting for that culture every single day is the most important thing. It's not about your style of play. It's not what plays you're running. It's not how you're defending. You can play zone, you can press, you can do things a lot of different ways, but your locker room at the end of the day is the most important thing. And having a together connected team is the most important thing. And, looking what has happened, recently with Illinois, I think you see that. And even the celebration. And I know, sometimes I feel like the locker room's sacred, right? You don't want to see, even as a coach, going in the locker room and celebrate with your guys. You don't want that on social media, but you see Coach Underwood and celebrating with his team after all the negativity around him and, how he is and his press conferences and all those things. And to see him celebrate with his guys, man, that team's connected right now. And I think that's why they're having success.
Yeah, it also helps when you've got a guy like Matthew Meyer, who has gone for 19 points in back-to-back games. He was a guy who, when Illinois was struggling earlier in the season, usually he was struggling. And he was also one of the guys who was loud about their struggles, saying that he and the coaches didn't necessarily see eye to eye. Brad Underwood has talked in depth about he needed to make some dietary changes. He needed to get his body in shape. He gave him a ton of praise after the Michigan State game a couple of days ago. And it certainly looks like it's paying off, right, Pat?
Well, that's the maturity, and it's multifaceted maturity of that young man being able to take on coaching, being able to accept that, hey, this isn't criticism. And I struggled with this for a while, and Coach McCall will tell you that. But this isn't saying you're bad, but it's saying you are in the way of you. And I can see the things that you can get out of the way. Hey, and I'm going to challenge you because you came here. I believe in you. You can help the team, because the first 8 games, Matt was not very good. He was averaging 5 points, 40%, maybe 40% from the field. I when I was on the other night, I talked about it. These last 9 games, he's 16 points per game, almost 50% from the field, over 40% from the 3-point line, and he's competing. He's blocking so many shots. I had no idea he's pretty much a shot blocker at this point. The competitive spirit, you can see that whatever was done, whatever Coach Underwood did to light a fire under his belly to challenge him, he's turned it on and become a completely different player, the player that they need. That this is the team now, I believe, if they went back up against a Texas team, that they would win that game again. I was after their loss, the blowout loss to Missouri, I said, who is this? Who is this team? But now I'm back to jumping on the bandwagon that Illinois is going to make a run.
Yeah, they just got a lot of dudes. And I don't think anybody, even in the country, let alone the Big Ten, has questioned the talent level of this team. But you heard Ben Johnson tonight and Tom Izzo before him after the last two games say they think this is the most talented team in the conference. When you have a guy in Terrence Shannon who's played for some great teams in college and is averaging 18 points a game this year, then you add Meyer and Danger, who come from a national championship team at Baylor. You add a guy in Coleman Hawkins who literally has a triple-double this season. Like, there's a lot of talent on this team. The question to me with all the Illinois basketball I watched this season is not how good can they be. It's how do they handle the dips, because they're an emotionally inconsistent team to me. And when things are going well, they're one of the best teams in the country. When things aren't going well, they've really folded in on themselves until the last few weeks. I mean, a team, given the Sky Clark situation, they didn't really need much more than that to really make this a disaster. Instead, it seems the guys have really come together, played some of their best basketball, and you got to give our guy Daddy Brad Underwood, some credit for that as well. All right, coming up, we are going to move to some other notable games from the night. We've got Georgetown, Villanova, and Syracuse, Miami to break down for you next on the Field of 68 After Dark. All right, I believe we are clear. Dagan, we got anything going on in the chat right now?
Fellas, what is going on? Chat, obviously, drop some questions. We'll be answering throughout the show, so feel free to drop them in. We do have one from MK. We have a little more time with these breaks tonight, so you guys have a little more time to explain these picks. But if you had to give me 4 number 1 seeds right now, who are they?
Oof.
Ooh.
Who wants to take that? That's a scary one to take.
I mean, I think it's pretty – I mean, I think you have to go, obviously, Houston, Kansas. You know, up until Saturday, you would have put Tennessee in the mix. I would go Houston, Kansas, Purdue, Alabama.
Alabama, yes, sir. Yeah,
Those are my
same exact lineup. Yep,
those are my 4.
Wow.
Alabama's so good. Gosh.
Do you guys trust Alabama over Tennessee? Like, if we're going to kind of go one from each conference in this scenario, which feels fair to go the 1 seed thing, like, do you trust that Alabama emerges over Tennessee?
Pat, here's what I think, and you know this, right? I think what happened the other day, you know, and give Kentucky credit, right? They went in there, they fought, they competed, and they found a way to win the game. But if I'm Tennessee and I know how good we are, what's the human nature element, right? No Wheeler.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting over there, I was like, we'll be fine. Don't worry about it. We're going to be fine. They're without 2 of their starters. Don't worry about us. We'll be fine. And all of a sudden you find yourself in a dogfight with the under 4 timeout, you know, and anything can happen. And I feel like that happened. I just think Brandon Miller is that dude in the SEC. I think he's that good. So I'm a bigger fan of Alabama than Tennessee. But yeah, I mean, Tennessee's really good. I just think they fought human nature in that game, and I think you got to give Kentucky credit.
Well, I just look to Alabama, and I see they have such depth. Mark Sears has been great. Noah Clowney coming out of nowhere. Jaden Bradley. These guys that have stepped up into Nate Oates' system, and they look reminiscent of that 2021 team that was able to win the league. They same style of play. They get the ball. They get a lot of shots up. They run. They rebound the ball really well with as many long shots as they take. But I really feel confident about this Alabama team, especially how they were able to finish and steal that win against Houston.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Not say steal that win, but Brandon Miller was 0 for 8 that game.
Unbelievable.
And he went and knocked down 8 out of 9 free throws. And I'm like, man, there's something different about this team. I just worry Tennessee, they go into scoring droughts. I don't think matching up against an explosive Alabama team that's going to fly.
So the one conference we didn't mention in this group here, and we've got 30 seconds till we come back, we didn't mention any Pac-12 teams. And I might argue, I know Arizona had their struggles this weekend, but I might argue they have the best chance of any conference to have 2 chances
15.
At a potential national champ. Do either one of you think that UCLA could work their way up, get a 1 seed? Yes,
10.
no?
I think yes. Don't count out Mick Cronin.
5.
Pat?
4.
Yes or no?
Why not? Yeah, I think they could.
All right, here we go. We are back. here on the Field of 68 After Dark. We've got Patric Young. We've got Matt McCall. My name is Greg Waddell. We are brought to you by Bet Rivers. Jump on the Field of 68 YouTube channel as well if you want to hop in the comments. We'll be sticking around for 15 minutes after the show to do the Field of 68 afters. We are live on Sirius XM channel 84, and we are so excited to be back live on Sirius XM channel 84. Let's jump into some other notable games from today. First, we had Georgetown and Villanova in the earliest game of the day today on MLK Day. This was back and forth. I mean, this was a game Georgetown could have easily won, which doesn't happen too often in this conference in the Big East these days. And Villanova, a team that really needed a win. I mean, could they have even afforded this loss at this point? Like at that point, it's kind of hang the hat on the season, right, Pat?
Yeah, absolutely. As difficult as the season has been for Georgetown, it's a team that's going to continue to fight. They love their coach. They hate the situation they're in. But looking at Villanova, they're striving to find their identity. You can't lose a game like this. It's a game that's not going to. Again, it's a game that's not going to help you. But in terms of net ranking, it's going to destroy you. Good to see that there was some balance within the scoring for Villanova. 5 guys hitting double figures. Cam Whitmore, he's a stud. I thought he was going to be enough for them to kind of turn the season around and make a run, but I just can't see it. I think it's going to take some time for this Villanova team to first off find their identity and get the right guys in that can fill that.
Matt, this has been a debate that a bunch of circles I'm in, like group texts, have had all separately without knowing each other have had them. It's wild to me, but I'm very excited to get your answer to this. Should this Villanova team be better than they are? Like, I mean, right now they're 9-10 on the season. Obviously, you lose Jay Wright. I think it's pretty fair to point at the roster and identify some obvious flaws, but at the same time, there's enough talent here to at least have a winning record right now, right?
You lose Jay Wright, which is, I think, Kyle Neptune and anyone that takes over for a Hall of Famer that built, like, I even look at Mike White, what he did at the University of Florida. And I'm not just saying that because Pat's on here and me and him are Gator alums, but that is a difficult task. That is a difficult task to walk into a program and take over for a living legend. John Shire. John Shire is in a difficult task right now. That's not an easy thing to do. And you've got to give a young coach, and Kyle Neptune's a young head coach. He's been a head coach for 1 year. You got to give him some time to grow, to develop, to figure out who he can coach. I was with Matt Painter this summer, and he was talking about that a little bit just in his early days at Purdue. And, hey, I don't need to go after the McDonald's All-Americans and, the top 10 players in the country. I do better coaching this type of player, whatever it may be. And, I think for Kyle Neptune, you just got to give him time to develop. It's his second year as a head coach, but you look at the stat today, and to me, the biggest stat that stands out in that game is the rebounding margin, because Villanova shot 50% from the 3-point line, but they got out-rebounded by 12. That's effort, right? That's effort. There's no skill involved in that. That's all effort. So where is their effort right now? But I think it's not an easy situation for these guys when they're taking over legends, Hall of Famers, Naismith Hall of Famers, and they're walking in there, and there's an expectation that it's supposed to just keep rolling and keep doing everything that they've done the last, 19 years or whatever it may be. And that's hard. And especially for a young head coach, John Shire's in his first year. Kyle Neptune's in his second year as a head coach. Second. So give him some time, give him some time to develop, give him some time to grow. We know he's going to recruit at a high level, and he's a really good coach. What he did last year at Fordham, he got excitement back for Fordham basketball. And used to be able to just go to Fordham and, hey, like everyone was like, oh, check that off as a win, whatever. And that wasn't the case. He's a good coach, but he's in a completely different situation now at Villanova, walking into what he walked into, taking over for Jay Wright. That's a difficult task. And I think you just got to give Coach Neptune time to grow and develop.
Yeah. Yeah. He's not the only quote unquote blue blood. Can we call Villanova a blue blood school? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're fringe there,
think
right?
so.
Yes, absolutely.
They're fringe. I think so.
Yes.
He's not the only new coach in recent years at a blue blood school to have some ups and downs or some struggles in year 1, year 2. So I wouldn't write him off.
Five or six of these losses they had were by less than 5 points. So they're right there in the mix.
Yeah, that's a great point, Pat. Yeah, to me, my only takeaway from watching this Villanova team is just that it feels like their first and second options on a good team might be third and fourth type options. And I think Whitmore's the one, like, okay, he's an NBA talent. Maybe he can be the 1A guy, the alpha, right? But you look, Caleb Daniels, Eric Dixon, as productive as they've been in certain games this year, you feel great about your team if that's your third, fourth, or fourth, fifth guy. And if they have to be 1 and 2 on any given night offensively, I think that can open the door for some inconsistencies. But yeah, you got to give him time. And one thing I will say, Kyle Neptune, if I was making a list of coaches who look best in a suit this year, he's probably 1A, 1B right now.
You're a big fan of the
Over
mock turtleneck.
Stackhouse?
I'm just saying, my man looks good in a suit.
Ooh.
Okay.
Over Stack?
Greg,
Stack
you like the mock turtleneck he wears? You like
Stack,
I love the mock
first
turtleneck.
of all, I'm a turtleneck guy. Okay, I didn't mean to get into the weeds on that, but I'm a turtleneck guy. But Stack he gets a little sweaty. Okay, he ends up getting on the court, getting teed up. He's got sweat dripping everywhere.
Hey,
you never see that.
Fired his team up. They had a good game. Come on, big win.
Sean
Big
Miller,
win
Bruce
at home.
Pearl, talking about sweaty. Sean Miller, Bruce Pearl, and what's our guy, Buzz Williams.
Yeah, I mean you're dead on. Those guys do not deserve a list on my drippiest coaches on the sidelines. Okay, that's drip in a different way, Pat. You know all about that. Let's move on to we got Syracuse against Miami tonight in the ACC, and I really thought Miami was going to pull away in this one relatively easily. They're a top 15 offense in the country facing a not top 100 defense. The Syracuse zone is not looking like it had in the heyday of the Jim Boeheim era. And then all of a sudden, Isaiah Wong tonight goes 1 for 8 from the floor, and Miami's down 10 with 14 minutes left in this game. Matt, what'd you see in this one?
Well, what do good teams do? What do championship teams do? Even when it's not going well, they find a way to win. And that's what Miami did tonight. And, to think that they can't win the ACC this year, I think they're going to be right there. And they found a way to win tonight, even with Wong not playing his best. And he has been outstanding throughout the course of this year. And they just found a way to win. It was almost kind of like one of those things like, okay, like into this game. All right, now it's time. Let's crank it up. Let's turn it on and let's find a way to win this basketball game. And that's what they did. And you want to talk about how to win a championship? You're going to have those nights where it's not going well. You're not playing your best. Pat remembers this in 2014. Auburn was at the bottom of our league and we played them twice. And two of our most challenging games on the year, they were both came down to the wire and they were at the bottom of the SEC. And here's a team that went 21-0 in the SEC. So I just think, if Wong plays, if he makes 3 more shots, the game's not even in question. He's been so good all year and they just found a way to win the game. And to me, that's just the most impressive thing. And I think that's why they're at the top of the ACC.
Coach McCall, I want to get some coach speak from you for the fans here. What makes a 2-3 zone effective, and why do you think this Syracuse's team hasn't been able to fulfill? T.O. thinks that this Syracuse team is going to be a tournament team. They have been as of late looking pretty good, but what makes the 2-3 zone so much more effective, and why would a coach decide to run that?
Size and length at every single position. You can get away with, having a smaller point guard in the zone, but if you don't have, if your 2-guy or your 2-man's not, 6'5" with a 7-foot wingspan and your small forward's not 6'8", and then you have, 6'9", 6'10" on the back line, what's the best way to attack a zone? Get the ball to the middle of it.
Middle.
And how do you prevent the ball from getting to the middle of the zone is size and length, right? And I think that's the biggest challenge. And two, I think even if you look at Jim Boeheim's, tenure at Syracuse, and again, not trying to criticize him, he's a Naismith Hall of Famer. He's won a lot more basketball games than I have as a head coach, but teams are now more prepared to play against it. There's
Right.
more offenses. There's more ways to execute it. You can run ball screens. You can run quick hitters. You can run post-up actions. You can do different things to get the ball to the middle of the zone. And, I think teams are more prepared to play against it. And I think that's why they have more success against it.
That's a great point.
I think we might need to do a quick little mental health check on our guy T.O. though. Syracuse tournament team.
That's what he believes it.
Don't they got to beat somebody though? They got one top 100
G-Mac is my
year.
guy. I love G-Mac, but I don't know.
But you know what? I was wrong about the ACC earlier. There's opportunities there for wins to build that resume. The opportunities are there. I just don't know if it's actually a reality.
You're 100% right. The problem for Syracuse is that tonight was their opportunity. You're up 10 against Miami, and you don't win that game on a night where their best player goes 1 for 8 from the floor. That's one you're going to look back at. I could be wrong. We'll see. Maybe they turn it on. Maybe they beat some of the best teams, but this was one they definitely let slip. And for the record, from Miami, I love this team. The key to me for them going from really good to like, oh, crap, they're a national contender good, is that they need Nigel Pack to be the Nigel Pack they thought they were paying for this offseason. And listen, tonight, 5 for 9 from 3. I mean, that's the Pack that you saw last year. That's the Pack that everybody in Miami signed up for. Hasn't been the Pack they've gotten this season. So I'll keep my eye on that. If they can go into a little Batman and Robin with Wong and Pack, I really like the ceiling of this team. We saw Miami make a run in the tournament last year. There's no reason they could not do that again. All right, coming up on the field of 68 after dark, we're going to go take a look at the national scene. I've got a handful of teams that I'm going to fire at Pat and Matt here. I'm sorry, Matt. I just called you Mike McCall.
Mike.
We're going to fire some teams at these guys, rapid fire style, and they're going to tell me if they are contenders or frauds next on the field of 68 after dark.
Good for 3 minutes.
Listen, I called producer Dagan Hayes a couple weeks ago, so
we're
I'm
gonna need to figure out the pronunciations. Right? We're gonna get you a guide or something.
I'm the one who needs
It was probably because you said Mike White.
I had Richmond St. Bonaventure for this weekend, and I spent probably an hour prior to the game trying to get Richmond's Gustafson's name right before I said it wrong.
There you go. All it takes though is one time to say it wrong, and then it's in your head.
That's it.
Yeah. I got a question for you guys though, and it's about the ACC. So let's jump into it. Kevin Lucas, who's the best guard in the ACC?
Ooh,
it's Wong, isn't it?
Has to be.
Yeah.
Up until tonight, I mean, he had a bad game, but man, he's been outstanding. I mean, and his team is at the top of the standings. I mean, he's getting 17 a game. And 5 rebounds at the guard spot. I mean, I just think it's hard to pick against him.
Who are the other options even? Like, you're looking at
you got Tyree Appleby.
Ooh, of course, yeah, former
right?
Gator. Yeah,
I know, right? Man, he looks good.
Whew.
He's been great.
He's been great.
But Pat, I think too, like that's a credit to Coach Forbes.
Yes.
Right. Like he takes transfers and gives them the freedom and gives them confidence in a player that's as talented as Appleby. He flourishes in Coach Forbes' system. I mean, I think Appleby's terrific, but I think that's also a credit to Forbes because guys go and play for him and they just flourish. Saw it at ETSU when I was at Chattanooga with the guys that he brought in. And yeah, I agree with you, man. Appleby's got to be in the conversation.
He's right there. I mean, he's leading Wake Forest. They're right there in the mix at 5-2, 13-5, right behind Virginia.
Terquavian
and
Smith
he's average. He's got
really good as well. From
Turk's
Smith.
been great. Terquavian
1
Smith.
minute.
And yeah, I mean, I threw out Caleb Love and RJ Davis. I don't think they've been close to their A game this year, but
man,
when you get to
what's
March,
been up with that?
I don't know, man. Don't we think like
Caleb? He gets him up, that's for sure. Caleb Love, I think he's finally starting to not get him up as much. I was like, bro, you got 4 other guys that can get buckets too.
Do we think like they just flip a switch come tournament time though, Pat? Like
30.
Is that a thing teams can do?
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing teams can do. Look at UConn from 2010. They weren't they weren't a tournament team, and they just flipped the switch, won the Big East, and then went on to not lose again the rest of the season.
15.
They have the pieces. They did it last year, so it can happen.
Yeah.
Just can't wait till it's too late.
We saw it last year. I don't know. I hate watching
5,
regular season
4,
North Carolina so
3,
much.
2.
It's crazy.
1.
Great
We're
song.
back. It's the Field of 68 After Dark, and the music is back. God, I love the music. I've missed
Great
it so
song.
much. We're on Sirius XM channel 84. You can watch us on the Field of 68 YouTube channel as well. We've got Matt McCall, Patric Young, Greg Waddell. I didn't flub anyone's names there. I'm feeling fantastic about it. We're playing buy or sell, boys. Okay? We got a lot of teams nationally this weekend that surprising results came in for. Okay. I've made a list. I jotted down my notes. I checked it twice. These are the teams I want to talk about, and we'll go one by one. And I want you to tell me, given where they're at right now, are you buying or selling them as contenders when we get to NCAA tournament time? Let's start with the biggest surprise win of the weekend. That would be Kentucky. No Severe Wheeler, no problem. This team has had a lot of downs this season, a lot of issues. The fan base frustrated, to say the least, with John Calipari. Are you buying or selling Kentucky at the national level? McCall, we're going to you first.
First of all, I mean, John Calipari is in the Naismith Hall of Fame. Okay. And I know BBN can be a lot to handle. And I know that they can get frustrated. And I've always said Kentucky is kind of a Shark Tank top job, right? I mean, you know, Tubby Smith won a national championship and they weren't happy with him at the end of his tenure. But I think Cal is secure enough in himself as a coach where I don't really know that he cares so much about the noise. And I think that he kind of just blocks it out, and he's secure in himself as a coach and knows that he's been to 6 Final Fours and it's got a gazillion wins and all these things. Now, with all that being said, I think there was a little bit of a human nature element in terms of Tennessee. And, Wheeler's not playing. We're going to be fine. We're going to be just fine. And probably didn't approach the game like they should have. And that's not a knock on Rick Barnes. That's just, hey, listen, we're going to be fine. And that's just, young players thinking they've got it all figured out. They're on a win streak, top 5 in the country. Kentucky just lost to South Carolina. They're without their starting point guard. We're going to be okay. So am I buying Kentucky right now? No, I'm not buying them. I still think they've got a lot of work left to do. I think that South Carolina loss really hurt them in terms of, NCAA tournament. I think if all of a sudden they turn around and, I don't know, is Alabama on their schedule again? I didn't look at their schedule today. I don't know if they're on their schedule, if they get them back in Rupp Arena. But like, what's another quality? No, they don't, right? So they've already played Alabama. I know they'll get Tennessee back in Rupp Arena. So they go 2-0 against Tennessee. That's another quality win. But even going into that game, they didn't have very many quality victories. And I think their best win going into that game was Michigan. So I think they got work left to do. I think I said it a couple weeks ago about them. I think it was a great win. Credit to Cal for, his team and how focused they were, and to be able to go into that type of environment. And Pat can attest to that. It's not easy to win. I thought, Kentucky and Tennessee are probably the 2 toughest places to play in the SEC. And for them to go in there under those circumstances and win, unbelievable job. But I think, too, with all that being said, I think Tennessee fought that human nature, hey, listen, we're going to be just fine. We're on a win streak. Don't worry about it. They're not very good. They just lost to the worst team in the league, and we'll be fine. And, hey, man, Kentucky came out and fought, and their backs against the wall, and they responded.
Matt, your tone when you said Michigan hurt my soul, just for the record. Those are my boys. And when you say, hey, Michigan, that
great
hurt
reminder.
a little bit. I'm not going to lie. The other thing, just schedule-wise, they may not have a ton of great top-tier opportunities.
They got Kansas. What do you mean?
I'm going to say, they get Kansas at Rupp Arena, right? They get Kansas. Pat, are you buying or selling the Wildcats?
I'll tell you, I am buying. And reason being, Tennessee had every opportunity to win that game. I'm not sure if you saw how many bunnies they missed. I'm talking open layups. They missed at least 6 or 7 open layups. Like that would have easily shifted momentum, kept things in their favor. Cason Wallace had a goose egg. He didn't score in this game, and he is one of the best shooters for this Kentucky team. He's been shooting the ball at a high clip. He's their best defender. I love Sahvir Wheeler, but I just have a difficult place with a team like Kentucky having a point guard that can't shoot it well enough consistently. I played with Irving Walker. I played with Kenny Boyd. They could stretch. Scotty Wilbekin. All 3 of those guys could stretch the floor. You cannot go under on them. No one would dare leave one of those guys wide open in the scouting report. And yet that's oftentimes what happens because even though Oscar is down there, he's often able to grab a lot of long rebounds. He can't do it the entire game. I think this Kentucky team shoots better than anyone that Coach Cal has had in these last few years. CJ Frederick and Antonio Reeves, they lit it up. They have a great opportunity in front of them. I think Coach Cal has done a great job of helping these guys once they face adversity to respond. I mean, it doesn't get worse than losing at home to South Carolina. And I'm just really curious to see, are they going to be able to continue to build this momentum? Because before the season, Kentucky was like a top 10 team. And we were talking about their talent and the capability and the potential we saw. So there's no reason I don't think that they can get to the tournament and definitely make it out of the first weekend as compared to last year.
But Pat, too, like to your point in terms of like going under on ball screens, like that's putting Shigwe in a difficult spot. Because what happens when teams go under? You're going to end up flipping the screen or twisting the screen, right? So for him to run out there, and this is where you were really, really good, you could flip that pick and roll at the end, like right when you got up there, you could flip your feet and turn it to where Scotty could come off going to his right hand instead of his left hand. And but with Wheeler, it's if he goes right, like even look at like the plays at the end of the South Carolina game when they forced him to his right hand, it was a turnover. It was a turnover.
He can't go.
He struggles going to his right. So if you're going to go under, he's not going to pull up behind the ball screen. And then all of a sudden, teams call it weak or whatever you want to do in the middle of the floor, and you force him to his right hand. He struggles going that way as well. So, listen, he's a terrific player. He's talented. He can finish when he gets in the lane. He can set his teammates up. But, scouting reports, I mean, now that we're getting later in the year, like teams know his strengths, teams know his weaknesses, and it's only going to get more difficult for him once he gets back in the lineup.
He's a one-man press breaker. I love that about him.
He is a one-man press breaker. That's question.
True. Don't necessarily teach that. I would always buy into Sahvir a little more if there was just more shooting around him. But, there's a lot of lineup gurus out there that have pointed to maybe let's get Reeves some more shots. Maybe let's get Frederick some more shots. And out of necessity in this game with Case in foul trouble and with no Sahvir Wheeler, those guys did have to get shots. They combined for, I believe, 22 shots in this game. They didn't necessarily shoot the ball great, but I don't know if that's a coincidence that they were able to grind out a win there. All right, we're going to go to break in a few minutes here. We still have a few more minutes in the segment, so we're going total speed round, though, because I have 4 more teams I want answers from you guys on. Give me 1 to 2 sentences each on why you're buying or selling this group. First up, UConn. I mean, this team has fallen totally off the wagon in the last few weeks. You buying or selling, Pat?
I'm still going to buy them. I think every great team at some point is going to face something like this, and that home loss is to St. John's. It's going to be a reality slap in the face for them to get back, because I mean they were playing some of the best basketball I've seen all year, and I think it won't be hard for them to get back to that. Matt?
Yeah, I'm buying. I mean, Coach Hurley has their attention now. Like Pat said, the home loss to St. John's, it obviously stings. But they have some winnable games coming up here. They go to Seton Hall next, and then they've got Butler at home and Xavier back to back, and then go to DePaul. So I'm still buying. I think they're one of the best teams in the country. I just think they've hit a little bit of a wall. They had very little adversity in the beginning of the season, and they've hit some now. But I'm buying UConn.
Yeah, they went all in on the adversity thing. We haven't had enough. Let's get it.
Yeah.
I'm buying this team in the tournament. aka the NCAA tournament. I am selling this team as a Big East contender. You're 4 games
Rob's
behind.
not going to be happy with you tonight.
That's fine. I'll deal
That's
with
fine.
the voicemails from Rob. They're 4 games back from Xavier in this conference. Like, come on, that's put a fork in them. They're done. They're not coming back to compete for a championship this season in this conference, which is a shame because I think they're the best team in it. But the damage is done. All right, next on my list quickly, Arizona. Again, team, I called them the best team in the country early in the season after Maui. Doesn't look that way right now. I mean, they are really struggling in the Pac-12. Matt, you buying or selling?
I'm buying. Again, kind of similar to UConn. I think that they've hit some adversity here. You look at the other teams in the league. I think UCLA, we talked about them a little bit off air in terms of where they're at and could they make a run to the Final Four. I think USC has shown some signs, but outside of those teams in the league, I think Arizona will be just fine. So I'm buying.
Pat?
Man, I just my faith in the Pac-12 is just not very high, so I'm just going to have to sell. I'm not going to count on an Arizona run in the tournament. I think they can still win the conference, but I don't think they're going to make a run.
This hurts my heart to say it, but I'm with Pat on this. This is my favorite team to watch in college basketball this season. I don't trust them enough defensively. I don't think they want to guard at all. I think they want to just go out there and outscore teams. And I think they're good enough to do that, but not 6 straight games in that tournament.
Tubelis is fun to watch, though. Gosh, I like watching him play basketball.
Yeah, man, he's very good. Also, poster of the year, Nafali Dante, just hanging one on Kirk Risa, by the way. And then he hit the podium after to let him know about it. He didn't really like Kirk Risa too much. Go watch that clip if you want to see something spicy. 2 more here. We'll go to Duke. This team is not looking like an ACC contender right now. John Shire's first year. They've got talent, but some of their talent isn't what I think people expected from these young freshmen, particularly with Derek Lively. Pat, you buying or selling?
Selling. I think they make it out of the first weekend. I can see Duke making it out of the first weekend. Maybe getting a first round win. I love Kyle Filipowski. He's awesome. He's a stud. I just haven't seen the level of consistency, that grind, that grit from this Duke team enough for me to believe that they're a contender to win a national championship. I don't see it.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I'm selling. I think John Shire walked into a nearly impossible situation. And I think he's a first-year head coach, and I don't care how much experience you have as a player, as an assistant coach, you slide over one seat and becoming a head coach. And not only is he becoming a head coach, but he's taking over for, a lot of people will call the greatest college basketball coach of all time. I'm a little biased in terms of our guy, me and Pat. But yeah, it's hard to argue in terms of Coach K. And I just think it's a difficult thing. And again, like we talked about with Kyle Neptune, you got to let him grow and develop a little bit. But I'm selling on the Dukies right now.
I'm with you. That's 3 for 3. We'll sell this roster. I think they're 1 to 2 pieces short as far as guys they can trust right now. Like, they got a lot of talent that any given night, you wouldn't be shocked if one of their top 7 goes off for 20. They don't have enough guys that are doing what they need every single night right now. And that comes with youth. That comes with an experience at this level. And they have that both with the players and the coach right now. More to figure out. Final team on my list, Arkansas. They need Nick Smith back.
They need him bad. They need him bad.
Are they going to get him back? We don't know. Are you buying or selling, Matt? What do you think?
I think if they can get him back, I'm buying.
Yeah,
I'm buying. I am buying. Right now, I got to sell. Not a great performance over the weekend. Even though Jerry Stackhouse, as Pat called him, is the best dressed guy in college basketball. But yeah, I think you got to sell until they get him back. If he's back in the lineup, then I'm 1,000% buying.
Yeah.
But we don't have the information. We don't really know, right? So I think right now you got to sell. But if he's back in there, I'm buying.
I'm not sure if I buy even with him back enough to be a contender to be an Elite 8 team again, because Trevin Brazile, man, he was awesome. He was unbelievable. He was unbelievable. He was the best 3-point shooter because, big guy, he's getting really good looks, protecting the rim. He showed those spurts of himself at Missouri. But, yeah, with Nick Smith Jr., they're definitely a better team. without, Ricky Council is great. Devo Davis is so up and down. Jordan Walsh hasn't been the guy that I thought he would be yet. I think he's still just trying to figure things out. But yeah, Arkansas, they just struggle. They really struggle to score. They really struggle to put the ball in the basket.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe we talked about this in the Illinois segment briefly. Maybe just a definitive answer on Nick Smith. Either I'm in or I'm out.
Yeah, man. Seriously.
Yeah.
I don't care which answer it is. I'll buy if one of those answers comes to fruition. If it's just like a will he, won't he thing all season, then I'm out on them as well. All right, we're going to preview the Big 12. It's a big Tuesday in the Big 12. We've got our own Doster and Goodman live from Manhattan for Kansas State, Kansas tomorrow. That's coming up next on the Field of 68 After Dark.
3.5 clear.
All right, what we got in the chat, Dagan? Talk to me.
Well, first of all, I got to clarify something for the chat. We know that we can hear the series producer, and we know that you guys can hear the series producer. So you guys can stop in the chat with all that. But my question is, this isn't really a question, but I see the chat talking about Marquette. Is Marquette the best team in the Big East? Are they the favorites to win the league this year?
Man, Xavier is awesome.
Man. Xavier.
They're good. Marquette's great too, and Shaka was a Gator as well. He actually recruited me to come to Florida, and watching them play basketball, they look like a team that just hoops. But Sully Boom, Colby Jones, those guys, that backcourt they've been awesome. They've been unmatched and just playing at such a high level. I did not foresee Xavier playing this well, and having the 7-0. Lead and start with that they are right now. I think who's right behind them?
They got Providence 1 game back right now.
Providence 1 game back.
Yeah, and then Marquette with 2 losses, Creighton, UConn 3 and 4 losses.
What a good league!
Yeah, man.
Basketball league
for sure.
Sule
Boom, man, though, like not enough people are talking about Sule Boom. He's probably
one of the best transfers. One of the 100%. Best transfers out there.
100%. He's fun too, man. Like, what's he at? 17. 5-4, I think, on the year. Stupid good. Dagan, what else we got?
Yeah,
we talked about them earlier, so we'll go back to it. How far can Illinois go in the tournament this season?
I mean, I again, based on matchups, right? Like the NCAA tournament, a lot of time it comes down to matchups. The best team doesn't always win. The most talented team doesn't always win. But looking at how they've responded, battling through the adversity. I think they're a second weekend team in the tournament. And then once you get to the second weekend, and Pat will tell you this, anything can happen. Man. Anything can happen. Once you get to that second weekend, anything can happen. So I think they're a second weekend team. And, I think once you get there, we'll see what the matchup looks like.
Here's my question for you, Matt. How much does previous success or lack of success in that tournament setting hang over a program? Because this is not the first year that Illinois has had a team worthy of getting to the second weekend. They've never gotten to the second weekend. We're going 20 years back.
I think the problem is when everyone in the organization starts to bleed into what the media is saying.
Yep.
About previous success, or hey, Florida's been to the Elite Eight 3 straight years. Can they get over the hump and get to a Final Four, or whatever it may be? Are people, listening to that?
Media's going to create some type of narrative that you can't let that stuff get in,
and you can't let it get into your locker room. 30. I mean, that'd be the biggest thing. So, how mature is this Illinois team? I think that's the biggest thing, to where they can block that out. And the same thing like with Kentucky, right? Like, they lose to St. Peter's last year. They haven't won a tournament game in 3 years, whatever it may be.
15.
Can those guys block it out and stay focused when it becomes in between the lines and go play?
Yeah, that's the one thing that would scare me as an Illini fan. If maturity is what my season hinges on from this group, it's been a roller coaster, man.
1. You're up.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final segment of the Field of 68 After Dark, presented by Bet Rivers. We're live on Sirius Channel 84. We got Pat Young. We got Matt McCall. My name is Greg Waddell, and let's preview some big games that are coming on Tuesday, aka tomorrow, in the Big 12. We'll start with Kansas State. I mean, this is a game Kansas State's been preparing for weeks. If you've seen any of this stuff on Twitter, I mean, they have been preparing for a potential court storm. How are they going to protect Bill Self, getting him off the court in the event that Kansas State wins? This feels like a moment for this program. What Jerome Tang has done in the short tenure at Kansas State has been nothing short of special. We will have Rob Doster, Jeff Goodman live from the arena tomorrow, so keep an eye out on that. But Matt, I'll go to you here first. What are you looking for in this matchup that could swing this game?
First of all, what a story in Keontae Johnson. For him to be out there and doing what he's doing. I mean, you have to have him in the running for Big 12 Player of the Year. I know there's a lot of other really good players, in the Big 12. I know he's got another one on his team in Marquise Noel, but man, what a story. So I'll start there, but I almost feel like Kansas State is creating so much hype around this game, and Kansas is just kind of business as usual. Hey, this is what we do. We've been in this position, before. We're in this position essentially every single year we line up and play. They're always the favorite. They've got the target on their back, and there's so much hype being created around this game. I like Kansas. I like Kansas going in there and just having a focus level. And I think what Coach Tang has been able to do this year is unbelievable. He's doing a fantastic job. But when you start preparing for for teams storming the court and all those types of things, for fans storming the court, is your focus where it needs to be? And I think Kansas's focus is going to be exactly where it needs to be. So I like Kansas in this one. Yeah.
I hear where you're coming from. I would hate for that kind of poison and mindset to because you got to play the game.
Got to play the game.
You got to go out there and play. You got to go out there and do the job. And any distraction from getting you anything that gets in the way of you doing your job. But I really want to pull for Kansas State. Like, to your point, Keontae Johnson and Marquise Noel, they've been one of the best backcourts that I've seen. When I remember the game before TCU, I just saw Marquise. He was getting trapped. Shot clock was going down, like 3 seconds left. He just throws a lob from like the wing to Keontae and just throws it down with such ease. And I'm like, are you kidding me? These guys are having such a great time out there. Huge fan of Jerome Tang. I think it's going to be an amazing atmosphere, and Kansas State's going to be able to pull this off. I really believe that.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a better duo in the country over the last month than Johnson and Noel. With how much excitement will be there for this game, this is going to be my favorite game to watch of the year. I don't know where it's going to go. Kansas seems like they have 9 lives right now. But either way, it's going to be a game you have to see. Join us on the afters, by the way. This was the Field of 68 After Dark.
Clear.
Beautiful. Gentlemen, welcome to the afters. Welcome to the Field of 68 After Show. We've got Matt McCall. We've got Pat Young. I'm Greg Waddell. If you've been joining us, if you've been rocking with us on the Field of 68 YouTube channel, this is just for you. We'll be here about 15 more minutes to hit everything we didn't hit in the show, to answer any of your questions. Fire them away in the chat. I promise you we will get to them. A couple things from our show we didn't get to tonight, boys, that I just want to quickly go to. 2 of them in the Big 12 quickly, because there's other previews for tomorrow we can just spend a minute on here. Texas, Iowa State. Is Iowa State for real? Because Otts is kind of doing some things down there, right?
Otts is doing some things. I think Iowa State's for real. I think it's also one of the best environments in the Big 12 to play in. Obviously Texas has gone through some adversity this year, and credit that staff for how they've been able to keep that team together. Because in a lot of situations in terms of that, you would see players, I don't think you would see players leave in that situation, but you would see a team that's like disconnected or starts to divide. And that hasn't been the case. They've come together, and that's why they're, what are they, 7th in the country right now? I give a lot of credit to Rodney Terry and the rest of that coaching staff for being able to keep that whole thing together. But that, Iowa State, that's going to be a fun one to watch tomorrow.
The other subplot of this one, Tyrese Hunter back to Iowa State. I mean, the interconference transfer, he's been one of the best players for Texas this season. I mean, that's a scary proposition. I don't know if that's going to be the warmest welcome. What do you expect?
So I want to ask Pat that. Like, Pat, can you imagine, like, and it's different for you because, like, you were, like, born and raised Jacksonville, I'm not saying you're born a Gator, but, but can you imagine leaving the University of Florida and, like, going to play at Georgia or Tennessee or Kentucky and coming back to the O'Connell or the Exact Tech Arena, I guess it's called now, but, like, coming back to the O'Connell Center? Like, can you imagine?
No, I couldn't imagine that. Oh man, that'd be so surreal. But I mean, that's what guys deal with in the NBA, but it's different. College sports is so different. No, I could not imagine putting it would not be Tennessee. If there was anybody else, if there was a program I would choose to somehow transfer to, and I had to, gun to my head. Oh man, maybe LSU wasn't any good. Who else was pretty good?
Pat, I'm gonna stop you right now. You're gonna break Gator hearts.
Missouri was good then. They had, remember, Flip Pressey. That was a high-level team.
Yep. Man, it's rough out there. They have some of the craziest fans. It is rough in those streets.
Pat, you wouldn't consider Florida State?
No, we don't do that.
No.
We don't.
I just want to know where's the line you'll cross here at this
I'm
point.
trying to think with SEC, if we're saying in the SEC. I did take an official visit to Georgia when can't remember his name.
Mark Fox.
The light-skinned coach, light-skinned black guy.
Dennis Felton?
Dennis Felton, yep. There you go.
Yep.
God. All right. Well,
too far away from home.
Pat, if you decide you want to share where you would transfer to, I don't know how much eligibility you have left, but
don't do that to
afters,
Gator fans. Don't do that to Gator fans.
You can save that any point in the afters. You break that out for us. Final Big 12 game I'm excited for tomorrow: Baylor against Texas Tech. I don't know what Texas Tech's tournament likelihood is at this point. I can't imagine it's very good. And Baylor, another team, man, that could certainly beat anybody any given day, but have not been what we would have expected from this Baylor team going into the season. The line over at Bet Rivers on this game, by the way, because I am a gambling man, ladies and gentlemen, is Texas Tech -2.5. Baylor, a road underdog in this spot, but I think Baylor's a much better team. Pat, you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, Texas Tech is coming off of 5 straight, and they've been competitive in these games. I don't think this Texas Tech team has lived up to the hype thus far, but Baylor has neither. They haven't been the defensive team that we've known Scott Drew's teams to be. They're missing I think the big guy that had the knee injury that he's trying so hard to get back. That was just a force with Baylor. If they had him, gosh, the season would be completely different. Yes, exactly. I'm just all in on Baylor to win this game and cover that. So if I was a betting man, I'd put something down in that direction.
Pat, I knew I loved you, man. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Matt, are you in on that?
I think, like, look at year 2 for a lot of head coaches that take over programs is more difficult than year 1. And I think that's what you see with Mark Adams right now. I mean, he's in year 2. I think it's a challenge. And sometimes in year 1, that's not nearly as much adversity as you go through as there is in year 2. It's just kind of how it is in the progression of your head coaching career. So I'm in on Baylor on this one. The game's in Lubbock, right?
In Lubbock.
Correct. Yep.
It has to be in Lubbock. Okay. My mom's from an hour from there. So I know how rocking Texas Tech and Lubbock, Texas can be. But I just think Baylor's better. And, I think they'll go in there and get this win.
All right, the bet will be placed as soon as the Field of 68 afters ends here.
Bet
we're going to head
Rivers,
over
Bet
to
Rivers.
Bet Rivers. Yeah, we're going to head right to Bet Rivers and get that money down. The one other thing we missed from the show, our outline that we wanted to get to tonight, couple mid-majors.
I want to put this in question form, Greg, because I know we talked pre-show, so I want to put this in question form, especially for Matt McCall.
Please.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Please.
You're right.
Please.
You're right.
Which team has been more impressive this season? Florida Atlantic or Charleston?
Florida Atlantic. Okay, and here's why. Charleston has a longer win streak right now. Their best win is Virginia Tech, which was in Charleston. Okay, FAU has one loss on the season. Dusty May's team has one loss. That loss was the third game in the year. They were at Ole Miss. And at that point in time, their leading scorer, Michael Forrest, did not play in the game. That's their only loss. They follow up that game. They go on the road and play Florida. He plays in that game. He has 20 points. He's 4 for 6 from 3. I think their conference is better. They beat North Texas now twice, who a lot of people had winning Conference USA going into the season. FAU's already beat them twice. They get ranked, and they go on the road today and beat a talented Western Kentucky team. I don't think it's close. I know Goodman's going to argue with me because he's on sabbatical in Charleston, and he goes over there to Charleston's practices every single day. But I don't think it's close. I think you look at Florida Atlantic's resume, and they have better wins. They play in a more difficult conference. And to me, it's not close. It's not close. So when Goodman goes to practice tomorrow, he can tell Coach Kelsey that and says, hey, Matt McCall said this about FAU. He thinks you're better. But I think when you look at their resumes, I don't think it's close. And I think the only loss they have was without one of their best players. How about this stat, too? Their 3 leading scorers, you want to talk about culture? And everyone throws the term culture. Well, culture is only a byproduct of everyone being all in, doing each and every day. Their 3 leading scorers come off the bench. They come off the bench. Elijah Martin could be player of the year in Conference USA, and he comes off the bench.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
So I'm not trying to get on a FAU soapbox because they're 45 minutes south of me, even though it kind of feels like I'm on a soapbox. But I think when you put their schedules up there, I don't think it's close. I think FAU is a clearly better team, and if you line them up and play, I would love to go to that game. I'm picking FAU every night.
Matt's done the convincing for me when we unveil the Fielding the 68, our bracketology show in a few short weeks. You've just made the case both for Florida Atlantic and the case for Florida that's not a horrible loss, Matt. Don't think I missed that piece.
No, absolutely not. Here's a question for Pat. Are they I don't know if you can put them ahead of Miami right now, but who's the best team in the state of Florida?
It's not Florida State. That's for sure. Shoot, man.
They're right
Miami.
there.
Yeah,
Miami
Florida's been playing pretty good as of late. They've Coach Golden figured out the rotation and gotten his guys playing so much better, small ball, and so I would love to see Florida in a Miami matchup. I don't know how they would slow down Isaiah Wong or Nigel Pack, but the FAU is right there in the mix for sure.
Right there in the mix.
We need a little Florida Invitational, man. Can you guys put that together or something, please? Let's get this solved on the court. By the way, the only thing, Matt, that you or that I disagree with that you said on the Florida Atlantic segment here is that Goodman going to practices every day. Come on, that man's just eating banana pudding every day.
That sounds great.
That's all he's doing.
There's some bar he's at in Charleston right now, just having a nice IPA, and he's got his headphones in, making sure that we're handling things on the field of 68.
Damn Skippy. That's correct. All right, Dagan, get in here. What do we got in the chat right now?
We got a lot going on. I'm gonna try to go back and find some of these. First one from Edward Roberts. Which top 20, we'll say top 20 team is going to exit after week 1 of the tournament?
Oh.
Let me pull up the top 20.
Obviously, we're not going to hold you to this just yet. Maybe down the road we will, but not right now. So you can change later.
Let me pull up the top 20.
Yeah, we got to all get there, don't we?
First weekend exit.
Can we exclude? Charleston's 18.
Take Charleston. Take Charleston out.
Them.
No,
take them out. Okay.
Yeah, take them out.
If either one of you guys find one, just fire it off.
Just yell it. What could
I'm gonna say
Auburn.
Oh,
you got Clemson. I got Auburn.
Yeah,
what is Clemson ranked right now? Are
19th.
Wow.
19.
Yeah, that's spicy.
When's the last time Clemson was out of the first round of the NCAA tournament or out of the first weekend? It's probably been a while.
I'll go Virginia.
Whoa,
Wow.
whoa.
Hot
I'll go
take.
Virginia.
I was thinking them for. I was thinking them as well.
I'll go
But I
Virginia.
say Auburn because they didn't make it out last year, and they had Jabari and Walker, and they have a lot of the same pieces. And I don't think that they've really gotten that much better than last year.
Yeah, I like that
I
one
think
too.
Yeah.
I for Virginia, for me, I kind of similar. I don't think they're that different than last year's team. I mean, its experience is back. That's great. But last year's team missed the tournament. This year's team, I think, has been quietly pretty average for about a month now. And they started the year so great that people have kind of let it happen. So I don't know. I think they're a 1-win, not a 2-win team for Virginia. Maybe over under a half. That's close for me. It's half a win in the NCAA tournament, Virginia. I might take the under there.
I like it. Another one we got. I don't remember the name, but I remember the question. It was from Boiler Diehards. That's who it was from. So I'm sure you can know where we're going with this question, guys. I guess this one's more geared towards Coach McCall, but what is the easiest way or the best way to stop Zach Edey this season?
Ooh.
Obviously, Patrick, you can answer this as well because you played the position. So
Right.
I mean, I think a couple things. One come to mind is like, do you try to play zone? But like we talked about earlier, there's post-up actions you can run for front court players versus zone, right? I think when he catches it, can you get there on the catch to double him? And that takes
On the
defense,
catch.
that takes defensive feel. If you want to double down with your four-man, he has to be able to see when that ball is in the air going to him. He has to be there on the catch to double him. I think that's the only thing you can do, especially sometimes with their lack of shooting on the perimeter, because as a front court player, when he sees it coming, what's the first thing he's going to do? He's going to skip it across the floor for threes. So I think you got to try to get there on the catch because once he catches it, it's over. And that's how they won the game, right? He caught it, and his post move to go score was so quick at his size tonight. I think the only way to do it is to double him on the catch. I wouldn't be opposed to double off the passer. So if I'm guarding the passer, all of a sudden he dumps it in and I see him throw it, I'm going, and then we're fully rotating. So whoever's closest next to the guy that dumps it in the post is automatically fully rotating. We're like pre-rotating just to be aggressive to make him do something else. Because 37-17, I mean, you got to try something different, right? I mean, you can't just let this guy continue to operate.
Yeah, and trying to just play straight up, no matter how strong you are. His length and ability to he has such great touch from even like the second hash. You can't block that. It's unblockable. No. And I was on the show last time I was on the show. Sometimes I like to go for the help side block or try to affect that. If you any chance of you going for a help side block, he's going to get the rebound 100% of the time. So that's something that will be in the scouting report. Hey, don't try to help the helper. Keep him off the glass. You have to, because 17 rebounds. How many of those were offensive that he's able just to clean up? And you have, because after the center, the forward, the 3, the 2, the 1, none of those positions have a chance to block this guy out.
Yeah, there are. I mean, this is way easier said than done, I think. And Matt, you tell me if I'm wrong, but there are guys you could totally leave to double off on this roster, right? Yeah. Like 1,000%. You've got to try it.
You have to try it, right? I mean, you can't, like Pat said, you can't just put your guys on an island versus this guy. And I think there's a couple different things you can do, like I talked about earlier, but, who can you completely help off of, right? Like, hey, if I'm guarding a non-shooter, I'm always going to have 1 foot in the lane. And all of a sudden now I can see when the ball goes into the post that I'm the guy that's going. I just think you got to try something different. And because even the performance that he had tonight, I mean, he showed single-handedly what he can do, and he can win basketball games that was an Oscar Tshiebwe performance from last year.
Yeah, it was.
What he did tonight. And just so impressive.
Yeah. Ethan Morton, for the record, plays 26 minutes a game, shoots 25% from 3. That's the guy I'd be looking to double off of as much as you can if I'm Purdue. Dagan, what else we got?
We got one from Michael Del Bianco. If I said that right. I think I said that last time, right?
Great name.
I know. What is Xavier's ceiling in the tournament? Are you worried about their depth at all?
I mean, they're in the second, first. I don't. What's the Big East in terms of basketball leagues right now? Like, where would the Big East rank?
Maybe number 2.
I mean, it's 2. I mean,
2 or 3. 2 or 3.
It's right there. I mean, and up to this point in the season, we're halfway through January, and they're in first place. I think the street ceiling is extremely high. Obviously, you've got to stay healthy, but I think the ceiling's really high for them. I think Sean Miller is one of the best coaches in the league in the country. To get through the whole Arizona thing, and he's back at Xavier. He's sometimes that whole year off too, it really helps coaches kind of find themselves and find perspective and things that went right, things that went wrong. And he talks a lot about that when you hear him in his press conferences or you hear him do interviews, just about how important that year off was for him. And I think he's a terrific coach, and he's got his guys bought in right now, and that is a strong combination to make a run.
Yeah. I think they have depth. I do think they have depth. They're at least depth in the sense of having 5 guys in double figures, having a big guy that can stretch the floor. Fremantle. I mean, that's just such a benefit for a guard heavy team. A guy that can stretch the floor and open things up for those guys. I mean, I think it's just a matter of time till they're eventually going to be a top 5 team at this rate that they're going. All they have to do is take care of themselves, and we're going to see that 8 spot continue to go down to in that top 5.
Yeah, I'll spell it out explicitly. I think the ceiling's a national title for this team.
Wow.
That's not saying I expect them to, but I mean, the strength of this Xavier team, which was a good team last year, was their front court. They brought their front court back, and now the strength is their backcourt. Like, are there 5 backcourts in the country you would take over Colby Jones and Sule Boom right now? I wouldn't. And listen, I think guards win in March. I think front courts can help you win in March. And they've got one of those two, either their backcourt or their front court's going to have an advantage every single game they play. They're one of the most well-rounded teams in the country. And if it's a tie game late and the ball's in Sule Boom's hand, I feel fantastic about that. What else we got, Dagan?
That is it from the chat.
Woo!
I'm gonna let you guys finish it with your toast of the night, and then we'll get out of here.
Oh, toast of the night.
I just do want to remind the chat, we'll be doing this every night from here on out. So make sure, tell your friends, family, get in the chat, ask us questions. Boom.
Yeah, we appreciate you, chat mob. We're always watching. We appreciate you rocking with us. This was the first of the season live on SiriusXM, so we did have to work through a couple little clunky transitions here and there, a couple little flubs on my end. That's my bad. I got to be a better point guard, but we appreciate you rocking with us and continue to do so the rest of the season. We'll be here every single night on the Field of 68 after dark. All right, toasts of the evening to end the evening. PY, let's go to you first. Who you got?
I'm just going to cheat. I'm going with Zach Edey. I think he obviously had a performance that was record breaking. Sorry, dogs or Spartans. Really sorry that he had to come in there and just do his thing to you guys. But 32 points, 17 rebounds, game-winning basket for a Purdue team that is continuing to just have signs of being one of the best that they've ever had. So hats off to Zach Edey, the unstoppable force, the big man of the year.
Cheers. The big man of the year of the big, Pat. We really all offseason gassed this up as the year of the big. Zach Edey was not the first, second, third, fourth name on the list. How crazy is that looking back?
He was in the picture. But he wasn't.
But he wasn't. He was waving his hand in the background like, hi, forget about me. Matt, who you got? What's your toast?
I'm assuming since we came on the air tonight that Tom Brady did not have some remarkable comeback, right? Am I correct about that? The Bucs lost.
You were correct.
Okay,
you were correct.
All right.
Season is over.
And Pat is still celebrating the Jaguars' victory with his shirt on tonight. Okay, Trevor.
It's
Lawrence,
always been the Jags.
What a comeback. So I was going to toast Tom Brady if there somehow he made a comeback tonight. Who knows if that's his last game? I'm saying no chance it's his last game. He'll be suiting up somewhere next year, but I'm going to go FAU. Got ranked in the top 25. A lot of teams would have taken their foot off the gas today. They go on the road and play a tough Western Kentucky team. So hats off to those kids and the sacrifice that each one of them make. Elijah Martin, like I said, could win Conference USA Player of the Year, comes off the bench tonight and has 15-5, and just business as usual for them. So toast to them, their win streak, and here's to them.
Cheers. FAU. All right, I got 2 toasts. I'm going to violate the rules here. One will be quick. I'm toasting to afternoon hoops. Okay, MLK Day today.
Yes.
Obviously,
yes, I like
great
that.
reasoning for that.
Yes.
But come on. I mean, when I can flip on a Big East game at 12 p.m. Eastern time,
Pretty great.
I think I'm the happiest person on the planet. So let's find more ways to work that way into the regular season here. And I'm going to go sentimental for a final toast of the evening, boys. The coolest part of this job, anything I do in Field of 68 by far, is meeting the people involved and meeting people like you two who live and breathe this game, different levels, have coached, have played, all of that, learning your stories, getting to know you, watching you do your thing, share the insight with the people. And as a guy who has coached at a very small level in the sport of basketball for a few years, the number one thing I value is relationships with my players. To see the two of you get to reconnect on this show, the way you did tonight. I mean, that was a very special moment, and I hope the basketball fans out there like me got to appreciate you too. So cheers to Patric Young and Matt McCall, man. That was awesome.
Appreciate you, Greg. That's awesome.
Still haven't played golf yet, but
no, we're gonna get there, Pat. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
One day. Hopefully Matt will have a few less 3-putts, right? That's the goal.
Oh my gosh. Less 3-putts. Less 3-putts.
That's the goal. All right. Shout out the chat mob again. We appreciate you. We'll be back tomorrow again live on Sirius XM here on the Field of 68 After Dark.